Hello and all, welcome to a Galaxy Man Show interview show. So for my next guest is this incredible director and actress and model known by the name of Beck, who's creating a film later this year and who has directed 2 films. So I'm about to give Beck an out into the live now and have a chat with Beck about her directing and filmmaking and all her other previous projects. So let's begin. How's it going?
Good, nice to hear another Aussie. Let me just
You too.
slightly tweak my camera. I haven't done an Instagram video call before like this.
It's all good. It's all good. So, to people that don't know who you are, Beck, if you could give a bit of backstory about who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive right into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I am an Australian actress, filmmaker, model, makeup artist. Basically, I've worked in film for the last 20 years, and I've always found some way that I can find myself on a film set. So I got into filmmaking during quarantine and have been having a little bit of success with that. So it's been nice.
Awesome. So, I'll dive right into the questions now, Beck.
Yeah.
So, for my very first question, so you've actually directed a film called Cut to the Chase.
Yes.
What was it like directing this film, and what can people expect to see from this film?
So basically, I had a friend that left New York City during quarantine and went up to New Hampshire with her boyfriend, and they had this gorgeous wide open space like out in the middle of the woods. And I just had this image of a woman running through the woods, but I thought that there should be something really hilarious as the punchline at the end. So I decided to basically make the most of a location. My boyfriend and my best friend both acted in it. And then there was this door in the floor that was almost like out of the original Evil Dead movie where they kept the witch under there. And I was just like, that's brilliant. Like, that just has to be used. So it was just a strange confabulation of, like, you know, I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I love The Shining. Like, I love like those sorts of horror movies. So just combining all of that and then, you know, figuring out like the logistics. So I watched a lot of horror movies. I got inspired by like shots. The Shining with Jack and Wendy in the bathroom, that Here's Johnny scene was like a huge inspiration. And then the beginning sequence was inspired by Evil Dead 2 when Ash is running through the woods. So it was just really fun. The film basically sets up like it's a horror movie, and then there's a twist at the end that, you know, this woman's running from something and it turns out to be not what you think it is. It's just really fun.
Awesome. So on to my very next question. So you've actually also directed a film called The Carrying.
The Carrying, yeah.
Name, right? Yeah. What was that whole experience like creating that?
Obviously Karens are a really hot meme right now, and I had a screenplay idea for a while that was called Can I Speak to the Manager? So again, it was just like a bunch of, you know, ridiculous ideas that I'd already had, and then there was a tweet that went out during quarantine, and it was just so entitled, and it was a picture of a woman looking all sad next to her food in Texas, and basically it said, my poor wife has been waiting for over an hour to get her side of shredded cheese. She can't eat fajitas without shredded cheese. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, there's a pandemic, like, come on. And they're like, quarantine is no excuse for crappy service. So again, the film was like a horror comedy, so it basically played on the lycanthrope, which is like a werewolf transformation mythology. And again, you know, it's horror comedy, and yeah, again, it's just been a really fun film, and it's doing well on the circuit at the moment.
Awesome. So on to my very next question. As I mentioned before, you're actually a filmmaker.
Yeah.
What made you decide, hey, I wanted to start doing filmmaking?
So a few years ago, I trained with a really incredible coach by the name of Heidi Marshall, and her big thing for actors is to become advocates and creating your own work. And I didn't quite know what to make with that information at the time, because I'd really put myself in a pigeonhole of, no, I am an actor and I'm an actor only. But I think there's been a really big renaissance with particularly people like Phoebe Waller-Bridge from Fleabag. There's a lot of these actor, writer, producers creating their own content. And, you know, I've been auditioning, like, nobody's heard of me. Like, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've just gotten to a point where I've realized that I would rather tell my own stories and create my own content and, you know, have a go at it that way.
Awesome. So on to my very next question. Yeah. You've actually also won awards for your best winning filmmaking. What has that experience been like for you?
Very surreal. I was very lucky with my first film festival. It It was called Scared for Your Life, which is part of the Long Island International Film Expo, but it's their horror division. And I'd worked with one of the heads of the festival a few years ago doing makeup on a film in this crazy venue called the Long Island Puppet Theatre. And, you know, he reached out to me as soon as I'd finished Cut to the Chase and was promoting it on Instagram. And he invited me to be a part of their festival. And I'd heard lovely things about it. You know, I know people from the Long Island International Film Expo, and, you know, it won an award, and I was really shocked because it was shot on an iPhone. You know, there was zero budget, zero crew except for myself, and, you know, I shot it on my iPhone. I'm not a cinematographer. It was just very surreal.
So on to my very next question. You have also been in The Fairy Tale back in 2019, and you played the role of Beck.
Yes.
What was that whole experience like for you?
So it was a very unconventional and very loose approach to filmmaking. So the story, they basically had everybody keep their own names, kind of like, you know, how like in the Blair Witch Project, they all kept, the actors, they kept their first names. And we improvised. There was a storyline, and we had a script with a guideline as to where this story was headed. And we had two directors working with us, and they kind of whispered things in our ears for each take. And, you know, we tweak and refine things within those, you know, within that sort of story. So I really liked it in the sense that, you know, there was a lot of freedom with it. And that made it very exciting.
So on to my very next question. You're, as I mentioned before, previous before this, you're actually a model.
Yeah.
How did you get into modeling in the first place?
Again, through acting. You know, there's a lot of crossovers. I had a girlfriend, I don't know if you watched Home and Away, you know, back in the early 2000s. I went to high school with Tammin Sursok. And, you know, we both went and took acting classes together, and, you know, she found her way into, you know, her role on Home and Away through modeling. And I didn't really ever think of it that way. You know, I'm this 5'2" girl. I didn't think I could be like a runway model, but there's a lot of different types of modeling. Like there's commercial and print modeling, you know, and there's like catalog. There's a lot of different sorts of things that you can do. You don't necessarily have to do the runway stuff where you have to be, you know, really, really tall and, you know, very much a certain body type. But I love it because there's a lot of storytelling involved, and really good models know that it's not just, you know, posing for the camera. There's a story being told. And, you know, you can see those crossover with, you know, some of these successful models. Like I think Cara Delevingne, for example, is a really great example of a model turned actress. And I think that, you know, there's engagement behind the eyes, which you can apply to both acting and modeling.
Awesome. So on to my very next question.
Yeah.
So who inspired you as a person to get into like directing and acting in the first place?
For acting, I have pretty much known, like from the moment I could talk and I saw people on TV, that there was nothing else I wanted to do. I was like, that's what I want to do. But for filmmaking, obviously Heidi Marshall played a big part into that. But my boyfriend actually really pushed me to, you know, make my own film, because I'd written a script and a pilot that, you know, I'd had table reads, and I was like, I have to raise money and do all these things. And he's like, you know what, do it yourself. And, you know, he introduced me to Robert Rodrigo's Rebel Without a Crew, which I read. And, you know, Heidi Marshall has a great community of, you know, actors turned filmmakers. So that was all how it was kind of a roundabout kind of way that happened.
Awesome. So on to my very next question. What have you learned about yourself as a person during COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. That my fear and limitations had prevented me from making films. And, you know, both projects have been like, cut to the chase. Like there was zero budget behind it. You know, I think the only budget behind it was our bus tickets to Vermont. You know, and I've learned that if you are interdependent and you know the right people, you know, like the right talent obviously helps. So I'm very fortunate that I know, you know, a lot of my friends are actors and they're really funny and awesome. And we've all lost work because we did stage work, like we did off Broadway. And, you know, suddenly with COVID, we're not doing that anymore. So I want to amplify my friends' voices. Like, you know, I know really talented, wonderful people.
So on to my very next question. So you actually have a film coming out in 2021 called A Class Act.
Yes.
What can you talk about that, if you have anything?
Yeah, so it's a pilot that I wrote. It's almost like a mockumentary. I was really inspired by things like Summer Heights High. I think that, you know, like the whole kind of that mockumentary vibe where the characters are all kind of a little bit of an asshole. And my story is revolving around an egocentric acting coach and all of his students. So there's a lot of personality types in acting classes, and it's inspired by kind of true stories, a conglomerate of people that we've met along the way. And, you know, it's a really great opportunity again to work with my friends.
Awesome. So that's my very next question. So if you could be in any TV or movie franchise, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Would it count? Would you consider Twin Peaks a franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see myself in the David Lynch world. Yeah, that or an Evil Dead or gosh, maybe even like a Friday the 13th.
So cool. So on to my very next question. So like what are the positives and negatives into the whole acting or directing industry, and how do you get through those negatives as a person?
Well, obviously, as an actor, you hear way more times no than you hear yes. Basically, the statistics are you'll get called in for 100, you get submitted for 100 roles. So they just send your photo off before they even, you know, see you act. You get called in for 10. You book one out of those 10 auditions. That's really, you know, crappy statistics. So you have to learn how to keep yourself, you know, motivated and fresh. And, you know, I think that I held myself back by not creating content, you know, all these years ago. So I really regret not doing that. So I think for people starting out in the industry, you can make films on your iPhone now. Like that's such a gift, you know, and you can watch, you know, you can edit things on your phone, like make movies with your friends. Like there's so many wonderful ways in now. And just because a bigger project says no to you, it doesn't mean that you can't act. You know, tell stories. You know, I think that that's a really wonderful way for people entering the industry to have a realistic perception of things because, you know, you work with an agent, you'll audition. Most of the time you'll hear no. So you don't want to take those knocks personally, but you still want to, you know, hone and develop your craft. And I think by creating work, work creates work.
So on to my very last question, Beck. So what's next for you for 2021, like goal-wise, that you have wanted to announce on the show?
So obviously a class act, the pilot is, you know, the big project of this year. So it's going to be done incrementally because of COVID. It may require script rewrites, but I am really excited to have the opportunity to actually have a real presence in front of the camera this time as a lead, as well as directing. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and it's going to be an IGTV release. So I'm hoping that, you know, some of your viewers will be able to watch it.
Awesome. Well, can I just say thank you so much, Beck, for taking the time
Yeah.
to come onto my show. It's been such a pleasure
Likewise.
having a chat with you and stuff. To people that haven't seen Beck's work, definitely go support Beck. She's one and truly incredible filmmaker and actress. Definitely go support her work. Any last like final thoughts that you would like to say on the show?
I thought you were asking people that were watching. I'm so
No,
sorry.
no.
No, I'm good. Thank you so much for your time today.